Section: Introduction. In this section, we evaluate and compare large language models, LLMs, using benchmark datasets and multiple choice questions. We also explore the conditions under which coupled autoregressive generation needs fewer samples than independent autoregressive generation to effectively assess the competitive edge of one LLM over another. Given a benchmark dataset with a specific input prompt distribution, for each prompt, we define the set of correct output sequences. For simplicity, we use binary scores to indicate whether a model's output matches the correct sequences. The standard method for comparing two LLMs involves estimating the difference in their expected scores, where each model generates outputs independently. Initially, it may seem that coupled autoregressive generation wouldn't provide any advantages. However, under this method, the expected score difference takes a different form. By applying the linearity of expectation, we can see that the two approaches yield equivalent results. Yet, coupled autoregressive generation allows us to estimate the score differences more reliably and quickly from a limited number of samples. We begin by examining the relationship between the variances of the score differences for any two LLMs. If the scores from both models are positively correlated, meaning they tend to produce correct or incorrect outputs on the same prompts under the same noise conditions, then the variance of the score difference is lower with coupled generation compared to independent generation. This suggests that we can reduce the sample size needed for accurate estimations. We will analyze two typical scenarios where this correlation holds. In the first scenario, the correct answer to each prompt is one of two specific single-token responses. Here, both LLMs consistently produce one of these two responses, and the sampling method used is stable. This situation is common in real-world applications, such as true, false, or multiple-choice questions with two options. In the second scenario, the correct answer is a single-token response, and both LLMs always provide a single-token output using a specific sampling method known as Gumbel Max. This scenario also reflects real-world situations, especially since many libraries implement this sampling method. Based on our findings, we propose that coupled autoregressive generation will decrease the number of samples needed to reliably compare LLM performance, particularly when the models are sufficiently similar, such as when comparing fine-tuned or quantized versions of the same pre-trained LLM. Section Summary. In this section, we evaluate and compare large language models, LLMs, using benchmark datasets and investigate how coupled autoregressive generation can require fewer samples than independent generation to estimate performance differences. We demonstrate that when LLMs are positively correlated in their outputs, coupled generation reduces the variance of score differences, thereby enabling more efficient comparisons, particularly in scenarios like true, false, or multiple choice questions. Section: Experiments. In this section, we evaluate several large language models from the Llama family using both coupled and independent autoregressive generation. We utilize the MMLU benchmark dataset and conduct pairwise comparisons of the model's outputs based on open-ended questions from the LMSYS chatbot arena platform. Throughout our experiments, the models employ a Gumbel Max sampling method for both types of generation. For more details on the hardware, datasets, and models, we refer to the appendix. When evaluating the MMLU dataset, we compare three models of different sizes: LLAMA 3.1 to 8B instruct and LLAMA 3.2 to 1B and 3B instruct. The MMLU dataset consists of over 14,000 multiple-choice questions across 52 knowledge areas. Our earlier theoretical findings suggest that coupled generation requires fewer samples than independent generation to accurately assess the competitive advantage of one model over another. We aim to see how well these findings apply to the MMLU dataset. In our experimental setup, we present each multiple-choice question along with its four options, labeled A to D, to the models. We instruct them to output only the index of the chosen option. We evaluate the model's outputs using a binary score, where a score of 1 indicates a correct answer and 0 indicates an incorrect one. To ensure reliability, we repeat each question 10 times, using different random seeds for the Gumbel noise variables. Due to space limitations, we focus on comparing LLAMA 3.2 to 1B instruct and LLAMA 3.2 to 3B instruct in the College Computer Science knowledge area, with additional results available in the appendix. Our results show that the scores of the models are positively correlated under coupled generation, leading to lower variance in score differences compared to independent generation. We also analyze the error in estimating the expected score difference based on sample size. By estimating the expected score difference with 1,000 samples as a reference, we find that coupled generation requires about 40% fewer samples than independent generation to achieve a similar estimation error. Next, we evaluate the same three models, along with three quantized versions, using pairwise comparisons based on open-ended questions from the LMSYS chatbot arena. We experiment with 500 questions, providing each question as a prompt and asking the models to generate concise responses. We use a strong model, GPT-4o, the 20th of November 2024, as a judge to determine which output is preferred, allowing for ties. Our findings indicate that the empirical win rate of each model is generally lower under coupled generation than under independent generation. When the models are similar, the difference in win rates is statistically significant, suggesting our theoretical results may extend beyond the initial settings. We observe an increase in ties under coupled generation, with notable increases in ties for specific model comparisons. This difference in win rates affects the overall rankings, as under independent generation, two models are statistically indistinguishable, while under coupled generation, one model shows a competitive advantage. Section Summary. In this section, we evaluate various Llama family large language models using the MMLU benchmark and pairwise comparisons on the LMSYS chatbot arena, focusing on the differences between coupled and independent autoregressive generation. Our findings indicate that coupled generation requires significantly fewer samples to achieve reliable score estimations and results in lower variance, while also affecting win rates and rankings in pairwise comparisons. Section: Discussion and Limitations. In this section, we discuss several important aspects of our work that could inform future research. First, regarding model assumptions, our theoretical analysis of coupled autoregressive generation emphasizes sampling methods that ensure counterfactual stability. While this stability is a valuable trait for causal mechanisms in structural causal models, SCMs, and particularly for those used in large language models, LLMs, it may not always be suitable and should be supported by specific domain knowledge. Additionally, we note that the Gumbel Max SCM is not the only one that meets the criteria for counterfactual stability. Therefore, it would be beneficial to explore how sensitive coupled autoregressive generation is to the choice of SCM and to extend our analysis to other sampling methods with different properties. Next, in terms of practical considerations, our findings indicate that coupled autoregressive generation is most effective when the LLMs being compared have similar next token distributions. This leads us to consider which aspects of the LLM development process, such as architecture, training data, or fine-tuning, result in minimal changes to these distributions, making coupled autoregressive generation more advantageous. Our causal model assumes that the LLMs share the same vocabulary, but in reality, different models may use various tokenizers, leading to discrepancies even for tokens that appear identical. While we could attempt to merge vocabularies, our experiments showed that this approach results in different tokens being used for the same responses, diminishing the benefits of coupled autoregressive generation. Thus, adapting our model to accommodate LLMs with different tokenizers presents an intriguing yet challenging avenue for future research. Finally, in our evaluation, we conducted experiments with LLMs from the Llama family, specifically LLAMA 3.1 to 8B instruct and LLAMA 3.2, 1B, 3B instruct, including their quantized versions. We believe it would be valuable to test LLMs from other families and their fine-tuned versions to see how coupled autoregressive generation performs in various contexts. Our experiments utilized a single benchmark dataset, MMLU, and a specific dataset for pairwise comparisons, LMSYS chatbot arena, where we employed a strong LLM, GPT-4o, the 20th of November 2024, as a judge and used win rate as our evaluation metric. To gain deeper insights into the advantages of coupled autoregressive generation, we should explore additional datasets, human-made pairwise comparisons, and other evaluation metrics, such as those based on the ELO rating system and the Bradley-Terry model.